Hello, this is Scott Jentz. Welcome to Sandbox Stories.
Hello. Today's episode of Sandbox Stories brings an interview of Dr. Nwamaka Ngoddy. Dr. Ngoddy, welcome to Sandbox Stories.
Thank you. Hey, Scott. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited.
I'll tell you what, I'm more excited because I had a chance to talk to you before this, and you have incredible gift of conversation, and I'm just so glad to profile you as a colleague and an optometrist friend.
Thank you so much.
Let's talk about your practice. You have a practice in the greater Atlanta area?
I do, yes. So currently I am in a retail location, and I've been there at this particular location for about 6 years, but I've been in retail optometry since 2013 after I finished my residency. I kind of was like, I want to do my own thing. So I got into one location and then I've been in another. So yes, absolutely been practicing for some years.
Did you consider a residency to be an important thing to do or a necessity when you got out of school?
Optometry school was a whirlwind. And I'm thinking back, I felt that it was kind of a necessity, to be honest. And I think that's just kind of like a part of who I am, just kind of following through. And even though they didn't have residency spots for all of the students, for me, I just felt like, why not take it to that level? And there's more that I could have done, but I'm not a academia person. But so the residency was enough for me, but just to feel really completely comfortable doing medical optometry and just feeling very comfortable and confident in treating any kind of like disease oriented type situation. So yeah, for me, I kind of felt it was a necessity, but I'm sure there are
That's
others
great.
who would say different.
You also have a very strong opinion about the importance of optometry helping the public understand the full scope of an eye exam.
Right.
How do you talk to patients about that?
It's been a battle, right? And I think as you continue in practice, you just try to pick one. You know that it's important, but because there isn't this drive, or I don't know what is it called, PR behind optometry. I'm not sure what to put it. So people don't understand. So some people are like, well, they have, oh, I'm gonna get in trouble for this. They have free eye exams. And you're like, well, how are doctors doing exams for free? Do they not have student loans? Like, what program did they go on? So the concept though is that we're not completely explaining to people what is a part of that exam, so people don't know what to expect. And we're not necessarily uniform across the board. So some places you go and it takes like 2 minutes, and I do a quick eye exam. I'm gonna be honest with you, I do a quick eye exam, but some places you go and it's a second, and the other places you go and it's like this whole full experience. But people can't break down the components of that exam. They don't know what they're getting. So they just know they leave with glasses or contacts, but they don't know like all necessarily of the in between steps. And so for me, I feel like when you get a lot of like back and forth or argument, or contention if your price is this and this other person's price is that, but it's like I can't do an exam for for $5. Like we have to be able to provide value for you, and so that costs.
How do you demonstrate that you're providing, even if it's quick, a thorough examination?
I explain what I'm doing. I explain each part of the exam. They have us do that even in like, what is that, step 3 or whatever, but I do explain what I'm doing. Using this light here, just want to check your pupils. Okay, follow this light with with your eyes. We got to make sure your eye muscles are working. Like, I say what I'm doing, and I do it quickly. I don't say it that slow, but I explain what I'm doing. Okay, now we need to do an ocular assessment, a health assessment of your eyes. We're gonna check your retina. We're gonna check. I literally say these things, and the person may say, "What?" And I said, "We're just gonna check the health of your eyes, and we're gonna take a look. I'm gonna take a look at how do you look at the back of my eyes. I'm just gonna use this lens here. I'm gonna put it right up here, and I'm just gonna take a look. I want to make sure everything looks good back there." So I kind of explain step by step I literally, as I'm moving the four-opter, hey, I'm going to put this in front of your eyes. Now we're going to check and see what the numbers are for your glasses prescription. And then, like, I just start clicking it in and I'm moving. It's all happening at the same time. I'm not keeping people in the chair for 2 hours. But I do say these things out loud so that they know something is happening. It's not just, click, click, click. So,
I don't know. That sounds really important. I think that there's a lot of us that have provided eye care for years, maybe even decades, where there are times where you just kind of get caught in your process. You're thinking about the data, you're thinking about what's going on after work. Um, Sometimes patients don't endear themselves to a conversation, but this
oh,
idea of
absolutely. Right.
sometimes doing a voiceover to what you're providing is just a difference maker. And it probably endears patients to want to come back to you. I mean, is that something
Right.
you
So,
find?
there's so many schools of thoughts on retail optometry. That's a different discussion for a different day. But since I've been in my location for 6 years, people are like, "Oh, you're still here," and I'm like, "Yep, we're here." And so the thing is, like, people. I remember when I first started, and I wasn't necessarily having a full book of like return patients, and people would say, "Oh, I always see a different doctor," or they don't understand that we're independent contractors. So it's like, "Oh, well, I went to this store over here. Don't you have my records?" And so I have to like make it clear to them that, hey, no, this is me. This is us. And, we have your records or they don't transfer over. We're responsible for your records. And so me showing up to that space and being consistent, I think has been my little part of doing my job to kind of like make sure people know, that we're what we're trying to do and who we are. And I
That's
don't do a
pretty
lot of
darn
I don't have a lot of fill in doctors.
That's pretty dang important, though, because you made a point that we won't cover retail optometry in one segment. I didn't intend to make this about retail optometry, but you're a provider, regardless of where you are, and
Hmm.
you take that seriously. And I think what I take away from your comments is you can only influence the patients you can influence, and maybe the people who are listening to this to realize that there are a lot more people practicing the way you are than
Oh,
there are
tons. Yeah.
doctors who are practicing really quick and simple, not talking to the patients, not endearing themselves to the patients. And for that, I think it's important that we take just one more moment and let you sort of explain how you feel like this is your practice inside of a location.
Oh, yeah,
It sounds
no,
like
I've always felt, I mean, I'm responsible, right? So I'm the person who's going to be held liable. Let's just say it like that. So I have always taken pride in saying that. It gets tricky from a practice management standpoint because I don't necessarily have a practice manager. So as soon as they figure out that it's you that they want to talk to, it's like, can I speak to your, okay, hello, that's me. So that can be a little bit tricky, but it also has, I feel has worked more in my favor than against me. Being able to just kind of let people know that, hey, this is, and why I'm taking it serious. And sometimes I'll personally call them and say, hey, this is Dr. Ngoddy. I'm just checking in about XYZ. And then they kind of get the vibe that, hey, this is actually the doctor. And so I think it's interesting too because I did grow up on the south side of Atlanta. I'm a south side girl. I like being on the south side. I love it. People who are new to Atlanta, they move to Buckhead, they move to Alpharetta. I don't want it. I want to be on the South Side. So me being there, being in that demographic, a lot of actually my demographic is a lot of older people too. That street where they built my store. People are like, wait, they still calling it the new store. They're still calling it the new store because it's only been there for 5 or 6 years, and for years there was nothing on that side, and they kind of called it like a food desert and stuff for various reasons. But again, me being there and them coming in and having this great experience in that location just really gives me an opportunity to be that I don't know, advocate for the way I think that optometry can and should be practiced. We have the medical training, and not everybody I don't want to be in academia. I do not. I do refer out most diseases and then can co manage if I need to, but I do refer most of it out. I don't want to do that. I love instant gratification. I like immediate good results. I like when people need glasses and I give it to them and they're very happy. So I do refer out a lot of disease, and I think that's okay. And I think we should all practice to the level that we're comfortable. But I do think that we can introduce that total health, whether we're managing or not. We can give them the information and not just send them out. Like we can discuss it with them. Like we have that opportunity to discuss stuff, break it down. Though I do a quick exam I always end with, "Do you have any questions for me?" Because I want to be able to give them the chance to ask me any questions about anything that they're concerned about. And that lets them know that, like, hey, I'm willing to explain, because people say, oh, I go to the doctor. We talk about representation matters, we talk about different things. I go to the doctor, I never get to ask them any questions, or like, I didn't know what they were talking about, or I came here because I didn't understand what they were saying, and they're saying that I need a surgery, and just trigger words to patients, and I just need new glasses. And then you're like, ma'am, these glasses not gonna help you. Like, let's talk about these cataracts. Let's talk about this. And I literally go through the picture. So that's where I spend my time, in the exam room, because I feel like, once you get down to refraction or anything like that, you put that slit lamp up, you know what's going on. You just gotta do that part quickly so you can spend time explaining to the patient, kind of what the deal is. So
My big takeaway is that you're kind of a self um, contained unit. And not only do you have to communicate with the patients when they're there with you, but you also have this responsibility to be calling patients and following up with patients. And if they ask for the boss, you're it. And I think there's a real lesson for that in people who get into these larger staffed organizations. So I think that's a wonderful story.
yes, but I
I
have, I
want to,
have, I have, I have outsourced certain stuff. So I'm not just a
sure,
one show
sure.
man. I have outsourced stuff because you can do better when you're not trying to do everything.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, mostly in the form of you have a clear role in the practice and
Right.
you don't cower away from communications and
Oh, absolutely.
conversations.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I like it a lot. I like it a lot. And I think I got the opportunity to quote unquote be my own boss. And so,
Yeah.
there's a responsibility to that. But I do march to the beat of my own drum. I have a 3-day week, 3.5-day week, like at my office, because I only want to be there when we're fully booked. I don't want to be there all the time. So, yeah.
Let's talk about mentorship. You've had a couple of optometry mentors. How have they helped chart your course in the profession?
So I can speak, of course, when we talked about this before, Essence, who referred me to you, is one of my huge mentors. Love her to death. I've known her dearly. She's a very good friend of mine also. But literally, I did the same residency Essence did. And then I started practicing here in Atlanta. So she practiced here before she moved to Texas. So she was a big help in kind of helping me map out my professional desires, if you will, even though she does community optometry, Dr. Robinson, she does community optometry. And I kind of went the retail route after residency. Again, for me, I was like, nah, I'm done with that. But she's a huge mentor. She is a great resource also. So I think the thing is like being able to ask people questions. Dr. Andre Lenore, he's a huge mentor for me because the whole time I was in retail, we don't get any business, very minimal business practice. And Dr. Lenore finally helped me direct my path so that it made sense. Because again, you go and you're like, did I make any money today? Like, you're like, I don't think I made any money today. And different retail locations have different ways, but if you're not making anything off of materials, you know that you have to really be strategic about ensuring that you're covering, your costs, but also making money. So those are my two big optometry mentors, and then I have mentors from my childhood who I still hold near and dear to my heart. But my two big optometry mentors are there. And then as I've moved into the eyewear design um, sphere, I am still looking for some major mentors. Which we had talked about that briefly, but yes, as you know, I started my eyewear line, and I would love to pick the brains of some wonderful people. So anybody watching, but I have got connections with a lot of people. There have been people, because as most anyone who knows who's tried to do an eyewear line, there is no information available on Google. There is no way for you to research this. This is not something that you can Google and be like, how do I make an eyewear line? It's not going to pop up. So I have had some strategic people, some people with the Vision Council. Terrence, I'm not sure if you know. Do you know Terrence Slacker? It's one of my
I
favorite
don't know
people
that I
ever.
do.
He's not an optometrist, but he is in the industry, and he was very helpful in connecting me with other eyewear designers, because that's not the optometry hat is one hat, and then of course the eyewear designer is a different bag altogether. So yes.
We'll get a little deeper into your eyewear line in a minute. I want to also talk about how you mentor others.
Right.
I think mentors are, you made this point that you just want to have somebody you can ask questions of, somebody's got a little more experience. How do you do that, both in optometry and in your community?
So I love cultural organizations. I am a first generation Nigerian American, and what you know is what people only understand, or exposure makes a big difference in your life choices. Opportunity and exposure. So when you're exposed to different fields, you're exposed to different things, you can see it, and you get a better understanding of it. So with that being said, as a Nigerian American, they encouraged us to be doctors, nurses, engineers. That's what they knew. And when they said doctor, you're thinking med school doctor. Like, you're not, none of the other doctors are running through your head. You're thinking like, you going to med school, you're going to be a doctor. And so I had said that I wanted to be a doctor, for forever. But exposure, I think, would have changed that. So with my cultural, kind of combining those two things, my love for cultural stuff. I've always been involved in something called the Nigerian Youth Alliance. It's a group that was formed here in Atlanta back in 1999. And basically, its purpose was to bridge the gap between Nigerian youth here and Nigerian youth there, and then also just kind of create this like safe space for other Nigerian kids who were growing up in two different cultures. Because you got Nigeria at home, and then you're America. When you come out, and just how do you combine those two things? How do you stay true to those two things? Because I think that's what makes America great, is that we have so many cultures, right? Like, we have so many different cultures. So I don't want to take and throw my culture away. I want to bring my culture in, and kind of combine that. And to me, that just really expands your worldview. It expands, the way you can connect with other people. The fact that you have these different um, exposures or opportunities. But anyway, I can talk for forever. Let's get what you were saying about the mentorship. I think the exposure. So for me, it's really important for me to continue to be a part of that youth organization, because I want to expose them to other fields. Like, we did even like a career fair where it was remember the stay calm, I'm a whatever? That was the theme of
Yeah.
it. Stay calm, I'm a. So I had like about 20 different professionals come, and it was like, stay calm, I'm a principal. Stay calm, I'm a this. And what that did was it let the kids kind of see that, hey, these are other Nigerians like us, and they're doing so many different things. Maybe not all engineering, doctor, or okay, yeah, she's a doctor, but my shirt said optometrist. I didn't say doctor of optometry. So like, well, what is that? Because when I was growing up and I needed glasses and contacts, we were only going one place. And I didn't even know that that was a doctor position, because of the lack of exposure. So again, I think the exposure to different fields is really important to giving people choices. And then I also think that with the optometry world, because there's so many different ways that you can do optometry, and there's like no uniform way. We just have not uniform. We have not. I mean, do you agree? Like, we haven't made this process uniform. There's so many different ways you can do it, and so I think that I love talking to young optometrists and young optometry students. I do have like one young optometrist that she called me last night, and I just listened to her. Well, I got the opportunity to do this, and I got the opportunity to do that, and this and that happened in the exam room. And they still get up in arms about a quarter or 50 diopter change, and they're like, I told the patient that. And you're like, baby, save your breath, give them what they want. Like, like, which fight do you pick, and which one do you go forward with? And I think that helps them become better practitioners. And then when it comes to the students, of course, just having an opportunity to see somebody, like, what does work-life balance look like for an optometrist? So I love talking to people, and obviously I can talk for forever. But I think it's very helpful to young people to get the exposure and just kind of hear like what other people are doing. I mean, when we first talked, I talked your ears off about your history, because I'm like, how cool, like, how neat is that? And just shared with you, my thoughts about the things that you had brought to the industry. And I just think there's that we have a very unique opportunity, because in optometry, our blessing and our curse, I guess. We can bring so much different things to the table and to the industry, and there's so many spaces where we can actually revolutionize this industry. So, them being young people being able to see like what doctors are doing, what they've brought to the industry, I think that definitely will help enrich our profession, which is really exciting.
I'm glad you do all that. That outreach is so important. I want you to tell us about how your parents moved to Atlanta. There's a Georgia Tech connection. It's
Right.
um it's fascinating. Tell us about your parents'
So
decision to move there.
right. So I think you do hear a lot of immigrant stories, but both of my parents were born and raised in Nigeria. And my dad actually came to the US first, and he went to school in Louisiana, and then he actually transferred and started going to Georgia Tech, which is where he got his master's in city planning. And then my mom came over shortly, and she actually got her master's in geophysics. And so we've been in Atlanta since 82, and then they found a community of other Nigerians at Georgia Tech, which actually ended up being like my childhood best friends, and a lot of them are still my adult friends now. So that again, that worldview, that connection with the culture, and then my mother became this person. We talked about that. My mom kind of wanted us in Catholic school, so she put us in Catholic school. So then I had that whole connection, and had this super diverse like childhood because I was in this school with all these different cultures, Indians, Asians, Hispanic people, all kinds of different people that gave me that diverse kind of unique childhood and upbringing and just being able to feel comfortable, interacting in different groups. So yeah, growing up here it was a very interesting experience. And I think what's interesting is though both of my parents got their masters at Georgia Tech, neither one of them do what they got their degrees in at all. My mother, we have a family business. We have a daycare, which we've had for over 30 years. And then my dad now he's kind of retired, but he kind of retired out of construction. He was so his city planning kind of went hand in hand, but he did construction. He was a builder for a long time. So
I want to get real on something. You're a first generation Nigerian American. You're an American. You are
absolutely.
strong with your Nigerian roots and proud of them. And you should be proud of what your parents did. What a wonderful thing they did, came and got their education, contributed to the community. Isn't that diversity what we're supposed to celebrate here?
I think so. I don't understand how many years has gone in and why we still have this struggle. I mean, I guess I do understand, but the diversity of this country, I think, is it should be the biggest strength. I think it should be the thing that kind of propels us forward because we are next door to people who are very different from us, and we should be able to use those things to just really be a real superpower. But what we see is that time and time again it is defeating our country, and it's kind of like tearing, pulling us apart when really we should celebrate each other's diversity and celebrate our differences, and that should help us to unify each other and see each other as, oh, okay, no, this person is very human, this is very human, like humanize each other because we understand each other's differences, and yet somehow it just keeps evading us, that this country just wants to hold on to the most polarizing concepts that just make no sense to me at all. So,
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I don't know what to add. I just know that I find your path into optometry really interesting. That's how we became colleagues. And then we can become friends, and I can understand what you've done and from where you've come and say, that's great. And it's that simple. And I'm really glad you shared the story of your family. And I'm glad you're very proud of your Nigerian American two culture, two very, I think you call them two very
I
different
really am.
cultures.
If you can say nothing else, and I love it, and I think it's definitely added to my personality. And then again, um, being able to just kind of know, people, I'm different, but then we're still very human. That's added to my worldview as well. So
So then, on your path to your education, you went to a historically black college university, an
absolutely, I
HBCU.
sure
It
did.
was Xavier University, but the one in Louisiana.
Yes.
And you had mentioned to me that maybe you were on track to med school because of this idea that, oh, you were told, go be a doctor. What caused the shift to optometry?
The MCAT.
That's simple.
The MCAT, yeah, definitely. So Xavier University is number one at getting Blacks and African Americans into the health professional school. So that's medical school, dental school, optometry school, pharmacy school because they have a pharmacy school there. So there was kind of this path. Now we had a great time. I mean, college in New Orleans. Have you been to New Orleans? New Orleans is fantastic.
Yes.
New Orleans is an awesome city. It's very rich in culture and heritage. But um, there was this kind of path everybody was going to go into health professions. The majority, I would say 90% of the school went into health professions. And I'm a sorority girl, so I'm in a sorority, and I was riding down Canal Street with one of my line sisters, who was actually my roommate, Tiffany. Tiffany is actually one of my. It's funny. I would call her a mentor. She brought me to
Hmm.
optometry. I always have to include Tiffany in my optometry story. Tiffany Humes. She's out in Detroit. So Tiffany was my roommate and line sister, and we're riding down Canal, and I'm just like, girl, I don't know what I'm gonna do because this MCAT did not go as planned, and so everybody else is either going to optometry school. We're graduating in a few months. People are going to med school, people are going to dental school, and paths are charted. And I'm like, I don't know I don't know what I'm going to do. And she's like, girl, come on over to optometry. She's like, it's not invasive. My aunt does it, and you're going to have a good life, and you still can make money. You have patients, and it's patient care, and you can do disease. And she literally said it. I feel like the story's kind of been tweaked, but she literally said, I know she said non-invasive, not a lot of blood. I know she said have a good life. I know she said have good, have patience, but also have like work-life balance. Those are the three things that kind of triggered in my mind. So that summer after my senior year, I went to a program and I restudied for the MCAT, and then I was also studying for the OAT. Now, I was like, okay, well, this would be my plan B if the whole MCAT thing doesn't work out. Then maybe I'll see if I want to do this optometry thing. But I ended up applying to optometry school and med schools at the same time. And then when I got waitlisted, I got waitlisted at one or two because I did improve my MCAT score. My MCAT score went up probably like 7 or 8 points at the time, and that was such a big deal back then. I remember that. I remember feeling really like vindicated about the test. But I ended up getting waitlisted, and I was people were telling me to go to postback, and I was like, I ain't doing that. I'm not doing that. And so what I ended up doing, I had actually I'd started 3 optometry school applications, and I only completed the one for PCO. Because once I got into PCO, I was like, okay, cool. I got my plan B locked away over here. If this doesn't work, then I'll just go this way. Well, I ended up getting offered to go to the SEP program, which people talk about all the time. They had a summer enrichment program. So once I got waitlisted, I said, you know what? I'm going to go to this program. And if it's cool, then I'll go to the school. I'll go to PCO. That's not really how it's supposed to work, but I was like, I prayed about it. I was like, God, give me the answers. And so that was what I came up with. I'll go to the program, and if the exposure seems cool and doable, then I'm going to go that way. I'm going to go with my plan B. And I am just forever grateful about Tiffany, and forever grateful that I ended up in this plan B. That was the best thing that could ever happen to me. Med school it wasn't for me. I don't even know what I would do if I had gone to med school, because there's so much in between med school and actually practicing. Like it's a lot.
Based upon what your parents both did with their degrees, you'd be doing something else.
Absolutely,
but that's all right.
A much larger price tag associated. So I'm super happy. And yeah, when I talk about optometry, I have to mention she's one of my favorite people in the world. She definitely brought me to optometry. And it was on a car riding down Canal Street. Never forget it.
That's awesome. I don't, this is all your story, but you asked me about New Orleans. I'm going to tell you very quickly that on my last trip to New Orleans, it was during a conference that was there, an eye conference. And I was a runner, and I loved to run the cities that I visited. Mm-hmm. So I was up slightly before dawn and decided to do a very circuitous route, and ended up thinking that what I would do is I would finish running down Bourbon Street. That is the worst place to be at 5:45 in the morning. They are cleaning up, hosing down, throwing garbage out, and they don't want people there. I thought I was going to get chased by a bunch of people that were doing the work. Get out of here!
I mean, up? Something I didn't know, Scott.
Don't go to Bourbon Street at dawn.
Does not involve running. It does not involve 5 a.m.
It does not involve running. So just that's a community service announcement for anybody who goes to New Orleans.
Don't go out at 5 a.m. Don't go to Bourbon. No.
Don't. Okay, so to a more serious matter, you have really prided yourself on serving the underserved.
Right.
And I'd like you to tell us about that commitment you have.
I like to be in the neighborhood, that I'm in because I feel that I'm really providing quality care in a neighborhood that might not ordinarily get that type of quality eye care in that primary eye care health setting. So I love that. But I also do take pride in trying to do any sorts of outreaches as far as, like vision screenings. Vision is super important to everyone, right? So, being able to provide those types of screenings and different things like that. I'm actually planning one right now for my village. So that's a little bit further out. It's just been a dream of mine to be able to provide eye care to my village, and just in a way that isn't just okay. We're leaving these glasses, just a little bit more depth to it. But yes, I definitely find that it's very important. People, it shouldn't be exclusive to people who have money, having quality eye because we know that if your vision is off, you're not functioning, you're not doing well. So,
And there's
mhm.
unfortunate evidence of how that impacts education, and then that
Oh
lack
yeah,
of full education affects the ability of the person to get employed or to follow a more negative path. And so, anything you do to reach out. When you talked about your village, you mean your village where your family's from in Nigeria?
yes, yeah.
And so you
I
actually,
don't think we talked about this before, but yes, no, I'm planning a screening, and I do want to bring some other healthcare professionals, to participate, just like sort of like a health clinic. But again, I always struggle with band-aid type approaches because if they're like what's good enough and what's like just kind of like barely scratching the surface. What do you do? So there, more on that later.
yeah, I think there isn't a good answer for it, and I think just the fact that you're willing to consider it and build a plan around it, a scratch is maybe all it takes for that one or two kids or somebody to get the benefit. And I know you're doing that in your neighborhood around your practice right now, so keep doing it. It's impressive.
Thank you.
One of the things about your career that you mentioned earlier that is really interesting to me is this idea that you started an independent frame line, and you
Yes.
specifically focused on meeting the needs of the African and Black populations. And I'd like to hear the full story about how you got involved.
Well, so I've worn glasses. I started wearing glasses in the second grade, and none of them were cool. So that's A.
Were you a myope?
Definitely.
Okay.
I'm like a minus two and a quarter, and I literally been between that most of my life, maybe 250 ish. So started wearing glasses, none of them are cool. Got out of glasses when I was 14 because what I found is that the glasses would, squish my cheeks, or they would never be big enough, or they were just awkward. They were really awkward. And so I started wearing contacts, and then as I grew in my career, I spent all this time in these retail settings, and I would try on frame after frame, and like none of them ever fit. And what I found was that my demographic also had similar issues. So I started talking to the opticians that were working there and just said, what do you notice, about the glasses? And so what I found was that the bridges were always slightly off. The temples were never long enough. They never hooked all the way behind their ears, or that we would find that the cheekbones were kind of, pressing up against the frames. We fit a lot of women in men's frames. We fit a lot of African American women with fuller faces in sunglasses. So you would have to go to a sun lens or sun frame and change it into ophthalmic to get a good fit. So I had just been thinking about this. It's just been running in my head, throughout. And even in optometry school, I know I had written a business plan for this contest, and in I said something about glasses. I didn't say about fitting in African American features. I just said something about glasses. It was just as the years progressed, I'm like, these do not fit me. And I would go back and forth, like, these do not fit me. And so I recently started my eyewear line, and I am taking pre-orders now. And I started creating frames that I felt, fit better. I didn't want to wear these the whole time because sometimes you can see like the little ring light in it, but I wanted glasses that didn't hit my cheeks when I smiled, and I wanted them to be wide enough across my face and really fit well behind the ears. And so I'm super excited. To
What's the
be
frame
able.
line called?
The frame line is called Anwuli. It is my middle name. It means joy. It's an Igbo word that means joy. And I wanted to bring joy to the eyewear. I wanted to make wearing glasses a joy, for me and for my patients to be able to say, there's been so many times where I've had patients say, oh, nothing out there fits me. It'll happen at least once a month. And it's kind of like, I remember one lady saying to me, um, I do Medicaid frames. And I remember her even saying about the Medicaid frame, she was like, Doc, are these for children? I think these are for children. And ma'am, these are not for children. These are adult frames, but the frames literally just did not fit. So I wanted to create this eyewear line that fit Black and African features really well. I wanted to make eyewear a joy. I wanted to make eyewear that made a statement without speaking, that you can really have something fashionable that fits well. And I was just super excited to do that. And here I just recently added these frame chains to my website. These are handcrafted in Nigeria. They're crystal beaded frame chains. So just being able to combine my love for fashion and beautiful things. I think when you wear things that are beautiful, you it adds confidence to you. You really feel good about yourself, and you do good things. You do good work. So bringing the fashion aspect plus something that fits really well, that serves a function. The fashion and function place, and then just being able to combine it with eyes. Even though it was my plan B, I'm absolutely I love it. I love this profession, and to be able to just combine all of those things that I love together, it was just a super exciting experience for me. So
So you said that you're ready to take orders,
right.
and you're doing that. How can somebody find out more about your line, and what has it been like to stand up a line and get it distributed? I mean,
This
I'm
is the
interested in both
this is the
questions.
hardest thing I have ever done in my life. Even when I joke about my residency, this is the hardest thing I have ever done before, because this information is so exclusive. And personally, I know I struggle with asking people for help, and I know I'm not the only one, but it was just so difficult to just realize, like, you are not going to get this information by yourself. You have to reach out. So that part, breaking into this very exclusive club of eyewear designers, and I'm just with the toe in the door, um, that was difficult. And then also there was a process of me trying to figure out what manufacturer, what route I wanted to go, and having to get prototypes because I didn't want to do private label. Private label would have landed us, where we've been. They make these frames already and they're this size, and just me putting a label on it wasn't going to change the size. So I had to um, get, really just delve into the education portion on the way frames are made, and what I was looking for. And this, I don't fit frames all day. I do the doctor aspect for the most part. So it was just kind of educating myself on that, the terms, what I was asking for, and then being able to add in this design aspect, because it's not like I took design courses. I'm just like, oh, this would be fly, this would be dope, this would be interesting together. And then just trying to take a chance on some of the colors and the blends. And so it's been a process. And I waited and I waited and I waited and I waited. And I said, you know what? Let's just go on ahead and start taking pre orders, start seeing what it is that people are gravitating towards. I am also open to talk to any doctors that that carry independent lines and want to carry the frames as a wholesale um, partner. I am definitely doing that. And so you can reach me in a lot of different ways. You can
Give
check.
it, give
Um,
us your email address.
my email address is Dr. So Dr. dot Nwamaka at AnwuliEyewear.com. And of course, you can follow me on the socials at Anwuli Eyewear. That's pretty much the handle for every social. So Instagram, Facebook, what other socials, Pinterest, anything. That's how you can find me. You can just contact me via that email address, or on the website. And just check out the website, check out the frames, see what you think, and see them on different face shapes. So when I first started, because you got to start something you want to finish, right? You can't it doesn't just pop up fully funded or fully perfect. So when I first started, all the pictures were of me in the frames, and people were like, oh, you're so pretty. And I'm like, thank you. But then, like, my guy friends would be like, oh, you didn't make anything for the men. because I am very girly. Like I like girly stuff. So everything looks super feminine, but I have these super dope aviator frames that are clearly a gender neutral. And so like my dad wears them. I named them after my dad. And people are like, "You have nothing for the men." I'm like, "No, I do." So now you can see the different face shapes. You can see the way they fit different face shapes. And I really spent a lot of time trying to figure out the fit, trying to figure out, how to make this fit different face shapes that we notice similar trends in. And of course, I would be bereft if I didn't say not all Black people look alike. Not all of us have the same face shapes, but we do know that there are ways to make things that can fit us better. We do know that we do have different cheekbones. We do know that we do have different, we know that, so there are ways that we can create products that will fit the shapes of our faces better. So you can see different face shapes on the website. And I did that on purpose. I wanted people to see that, okay, she really took, some time to see what these features are. And so we did what we could with the first line, and I'm really excited. I think we have some beautiful, beautiful, beautiful pieces. And I'm also excited to see where it goes with our next collection, which I've already started planning. And I'm hoping that maybe there'll be more than one size in each collection. So we'll see where you have to say it first before it can be a thing. So
Walt Disney always said, dream, then believe, then dare, and then do. And you've taken all four steps.
I love that.
And I got to tell you, it is a big leap, but the business perspective you're bringing, the thought that you're bringing, the style idea, the specific ethnic approach, and the appeal to those that you understand well from your community and your upbringing. It's the way it should be. I am really,
Thank
really
you so
thrilled
much.
to see that you found your first success. And listen, I got no interest in this other than you being successful. I want everyone who's listening to check out Anwuli Eyewear. So
Thank
we will
you.
we'll get that out there. So
Absolutely. Thank you.
as we get to the end, this has been a great discussion. What advice do you have for your optometric colleagues as they look at what they got to do to be successful in the next couple years?
Um, I think we all learned it last year. Be ready to pivot, be ready to change where you need to, but then also incorporate your passions, incorporate the things that you're good at into whether it may not directly affect your career, but bring that full package. We have so many talents, and we talked about what you did and what you brought to the industry with your website and everything. And I think that we cannot be afraid of bringing our different talents to this industry. I think we can make the industry and the profession more robust and more comprehensive when we bring all of our talents, all of our diversity, all of our perspective, our worldviews into this industry. I think we can take it very far.
Yeah. Well, okay, it's been a great conversation. I can't thank you enough for giving us the time to share your incredible stories.
Thank you so much. This was great talking with you, Scott.
It's been my pleasure, and I wish you great success in all that you do. And to the audience, thanks for listening to these wonderful stories. Until my next Sandbox story, be great at all you do.